Hi everyone, I'm Justin Liberty, the Director of Operations for OCN Distribution, and today I am joined with Bill Iprosino and Ross Snyder of Saturn's Core. Thank you both for being on.
Thanks for having us.
So we're going to start with an easy question, I think. How did Saturn's Core start, and how did the two of you begin working together?
Well, Saturn's Core started as a VHS label in around 2014, 2015. And the initial concept was just to sort of license obscure underground movies that I was a fan of, and just do very low print run VHS releases. So that's how it started, and we've been doing that, still doing that, putting out stuff on tape periodically and stuff. And I met William as being a fan of his movies, as the Factory 2000 output and stuff. I've been a fan for years, and we connected over Facebook and realized that we basically, he's living in the town that I grew up in, so we're very close in vicinity, and then we connected from there.
Yeah, I actually had the rights to a couple of old Factory titles, and my distributor found a box of these VHS and just started selling them, but they weren't really his to sell. So I contacted him, and I couldn't get my master to Escape Bondage back. And Ross actually had a VHS because he's a collector, as you can see behind him. That's only a very small portion of his collection. And so Ross offered to do a release of To Escape Bondage on VHS. And then, so that's how I started to get involved with Saturn's Core. But the Blu-ray part of it came out of the fact that Ross and I co-directed Mail Order Murder together, and we were looking to distribute it. And I decided, I have Duck and Psycho Sisters, and a few other, like Your Eyes Are Bleeding, which is a very weird thing that Ross put out on VHS that I did. I have all this stuff, so why don't we make a video package and try and sell it around as a package? And that got everybody kind of interested. And then you came along and said, "Hey, just have your own label." And I was like, "Oh wow, awesome."
So what, if anything, would you guys say is the guiding mission behind, how you curate Saturn's Core releases?
Well, everything that we put out is primarily shot on video. So we haven't really done anything with any actual films. And I'm a long time fan since the 80s of shot on video movies. And part of what attracted me to Bill's work and a lot of the work of the filmmakers that we have distributed is that I knew in the 90s, especially the early 90s, that there was a lot of really innovative and interesting stuff going on in the underground, more so I felt than in the mainstream, at least for horror. And so I kind of tuned out of the mainstream horror and just started watching stuff like Shatter Dead and Ozone and all these what I found to be very innovative and interesting movies. And I've just been a fan of that stuff for a long time, and felt like that stuff was just sort of in a lot of cases just sort of disregarded because of the format that it was shot on. And now that everything is shot on video pretty much, we're hoping that that stigma has kind of fallen a little bit, and that people can just accept these things, because at the end of the day, it's just storytelling, and it doesn't really matter what format it's on. And so everything that we're releasing is something that, we're not looking to just put out every shot on video thing, every weird or unknown thing that's out there. It's more of everything that we put out is either a movie that either Bill or I really love or are fans of, and in many cases are friends with the filmmakers. So that's the main goal behind the curation, is to shine a spotlight on some of this stuff, and hopefully a new audience will check it out.
How does working with these films, these shot on video films that you had, you had originally been releasing films on VHS, how does it differ now releasing them on Blu-ray?
Well, I would say that for a lot of the filmmakers anyway, the ones that had materials and could totally restore them, they've never looked better. And we're so used to second or third sort of generation, so to put it in perspective, most of these were edited analog. So you had your camera negative, and then you would make your picture locked cut. And then from there, you would add your music. So that would be the third generation. And sometimes you would do a title sequence and end up with a fourth generation if you couldn't do an insert edit. From there, they might make a copy to dub from, So now you're looking at like fifth, sixth generation VHS image, and I used to remember even shooting on a camcorder and watching the dailies basically with everybody getting stoned, as you do, and it looks kind of decent, and then by the time the distributor gets done with it, and after I've edited it on 4-head VCRs or 2-head VCRs with color bar problems and everything, it's like kind of gray, and we've all been sort of, Ross and I are used to that kind of grayness or flatness. But then when like you get like Scooter McCrae's film, which was shot on digibeta with a prosumer camera, professional camera, and you're getting the like first generation encoded directly, and there's no loss. So this is lossless version of Shattered Dead. It's pretty amazing looking, and it makes the enjoyment of the film a lot more because the colors are stronger, the image is sharper. You can lock into it a lot easier. Just like when Vinegar Syndrome puts out something that I'm used to seeing on a PD pack, that came from a VHS master and got encoded, and there's 4 of them on a disc and they look like garbage. And then all of a sudden, and it's kind of like puts me to sleep a little to watch it. And I'll see the Vinegar Syndrome version and be like, wow, this is awesome. It's great. I'm engaged. I'm locked in. So that's been really good for the filmmakers and for the fans for the most part.
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff, just like with film, is on the verge of disappearing. Some of these filmmakers that have tape masters in their closet or whatever, they're deteriorating, and we've had to bake tapes to get the image off of them, and so from a curation standpoint and a preservation standpoint, it's important to, just like with film, get this stuff out in the best version it can be for now. And the other good side to doing them on Blu-ray is, we can just pack them with special features, which is something that we're trying very hard to do. Anything that these filmmakers have, from short films and student films and TV appearances, and anything that captures that era of the time when they were making this movie, we want to put it on there. So at least for the time being, until a new format comes, we're trying to give the consumer the be all end all version of each of these to enjoy.
Yeah, really, I like that you brought up preservation, because I think there's sort of a fallacy in that people think like moving image preservation is just film. And like all this tape stuff, it's still analog, it's still decaying. And, this line is a way to kind of do something like what Vinegar Syndrome is doing with film, and do it with SOV material. And then all of the additional features.
Yeah, no, it's true, because I was actually contacted a few years ago by someone at UCLA asking, where is your, where are all your video masters, and could we house them here, and it's just like, huh? How am I on your radar? But it's true. There's this whole SOV world is pretty large. It was a big deal as far as the catalogs and everything went in the 90s. And just like in the drive-in days, a lot of filmmakers probably thought, well, this will cycle through the drive-in and it's done. Didn't think that it's going to have the home video release and all the different formats and all those things. So it's great that we get to preserve a lot of these films, and we hope that everybody else does as well.
There's an often, kind of this through line with people talking about SOV and people talking about horror, and that SOV typically gets, lumped in with horror cinema. But there were people, of course, making SOV films across every genre. And this year, Saturn's Core put out No Resistance, which is a sci-fi film, and then Ravage, which is pretty action-leaning. And I was wondering, can you talk about, bringing SOV films that aren't horror out on Blu-ray, and what that's been like, kind of finding these films outside of, like wave slashers and things like that.
Yeah, well, I think in the 80s, there were still video stores. So the thought process behind a lot of the filmmakers that were making things like Video Violence and Cannibal Campout were sort of like, we can get this in the video store and our friends can rent it. And, and in some cases they went all over the place, to my local video store. And that's how I saw those things. But by the time you got to the 90s, the whole video store thing was kind of over with. And that's when, people like Scooter McRae and Eric Stanzi and J.R. Bookwalter and a lot of these filmmakers that I have an affinity for, it was more of just, well, let me show my chops of how good I can be and how I can create something and tell a story using this format with little money or no money. And, there was no limit to what could be done. There was no one to tell them what they could and couldn't do. They were only limited by their own imaginations and, their pocketbook, and that was it. So people then were not making them to cater to any type of market. So all kinds of things were being made, sci-fi pictures, action pictures, and things that cross genres and things like that. And then just, weirdo stuff like Wave and, that catered to fetish crowds. And so all kinds of things were going on. And there was so much more than just in the horror genre. And, a lot of that stuff that I saw at that time from, as you mentioned, Ronnie Sorter, even what, Charles Pinion was doing is not really horror per se, was more influenced by punk rock and the cinema of transgression and that kind of thing. And so there's a whole world out there that we've only touched the tip of the iceberg on.
Without revealing any titles, can you talk about, what fans can expect from you for the rest of the year?
Yeah, what do we got coming up, Ross? You're the schedule man.
Well, obviously we can't really reveal, but we've got stuff that is well known that, SOV fans will go, yes, I know that. That's great. I've been waiting for that. And then we have things that, probably no one has really heard of that have not been released outside of their regional areas. In the same way that, No Resistance was not really distributed nationwide. So we have more stuff like that coming. So a lot of chance for discovery for that kind of stuff. And, I'm in the Vinegar Syndrome groups too. And I see some of the titles that people request, and some may be coming and some may not be coming. So just keep your eyes peeled.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time, and we will see you soon.
Cool.
Thanks, Justin.
And thanks everybody for picking up the releases. We really appreciate it.